San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury. San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Thursday morning, June the 11th. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Micklin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE, 90.9 FM over the air here in San Juan County, 103.3 FM if you're listening in the Durango, Colorado area. And you can listen anywhere, of course, on our website at ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program streaming live this morning to the KSJE YouTube channel and Facebook page. Coming up in just a moment, Arvin Trujillo is my guest here in the studio today. He is, of course, the Executive Director of Four Corners Economic Development. We'll be talking a lot about some of the economic development efforts that are ongoing in our region, so stay tuned for that conversation coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Next hour, of course, it's our local information program about COVID-19, the coronavirus. Megan Cullip will be joining me here, and we'll be talking with Sugar Singleton, the doctor at San Juan Health Partners Urgent Care. She'll be talking to us a little bit about the current efforts they are having with COVID-19. We'll also be speaking with John Betts, who's the new director of the Health and Human Performance Center here at San Juan College, about the gymnasium reopening this week, some of the changes that they have implemented to keep their customers safe, and much, much more. It's coming up live on YouTube and Facebook this morning at 9 a.m. You can hear a rebroadcast, of course, every day at noon on our partner radio station, KNMI, and also here on KSJE every afternoon at 5:06. So stay tuned for that. McKess is on the radio at 9, Roving with the Arts. It is, of course, our daily classical music program. This morning he is playing the symphonies from Ives, number 2 and 3. General William Booth Enters into Heaven. That piece you'll hear today at 9:06 a.m. on KSJE. And don't forget, of course, you can also connect with us on Twitter and Instagram in addition to Facebook and YouTube. Our weather forecast, well, it looks like a mostly sunny day instead of what that is showing, which is cloudy and rainy. I don't think we're going to see too much rain. It's calling for maybe some scattered showers this afternoon and tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, but mostly sunny skies. Beyond that, the highs each day near 90 and some maybe scattered showers overnight with lows in the mid to lower 60s. And then, of course, things seem to dry out beginning on Monday with mostly sunny skies next week with highs again each day near 90 and overnight lows right around mid-50s to 60 degrees. And that is what we are expecting and looking forward to it. So there is that. Let me turn to my guest who is here with me this morning to talk economic development. Arvin Trujillo is back with me, the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Welcome back to KSJE. It's good to have you here. And so we've been talking about a number of projects that you've been working on, and of course, it is always difficult maybe to think about economic development and long-term things when we're in a short-term pandemic and stuff that we're dealing with, but some of that effort continues. And one of the things you mentioned to me before we came on the air this morning that is progressing perhaps in a positive way is the rail project.
Yes.
Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, and again, I want to really put a shout out really to San Juan County and the Navajo Nation as we continued with this effort. There have been challenges, as we all know, looking at the pandemic that's in place and a lot of the focus that everybody's putting on its impact on our communities here.
Sure.
But as that's been happening, we've been able to continue to advance our efforts with the rail project. And one of the big things this past month we were able to get completed was getting an application in to the federal government, the U.S. Department of Transportation. They have a grant program in place right now, and we put in the grant for $2 million towards planning And again, the idea here is, before we've just been looking at studies, what we're wanting to do now is actually plan out how we want to proceed with bringing rail in, incorporating the Navajo Nation in our efforts, looking at how we begin to build a partnership, and really begin to determine how do we begin to get the right relationships established, how do we start looking at the design, how do we start looking at communicating with folks. All these different aspects of moving the project forward in this time frame is exactly what we're looking at, especially in anticipation as to what may be coming down the road. Looking at recovery, I think everybody is now aware, especially in rural America, on the shortcomings of infrastructure in our regions. And so again, this is an opportunity for us to prepare, get ourselves ready so that as these opportunities come, we are in a position to take advantage of them.
It's a pretty complicated project, isn't it, with all the moving parts and the different entities that would be maybe partners with this, as you mentioned?
Yes.
About the county, the Navajo Nation, and certainly if we're talking about getting down to the I-40 corridor, that includes other counties and other maybe municipalities, who knows, right?
It's looking at that. It's getting Burlington Northern Santa Fe also involved.
The rail company.
The rail company involved in it. It's also bringing industry into this.
Sure.
One thing, again, I think that's been somewhat lacking, not really lacking, but they've been kind of that quiet piece of this whole effort, has been the industry partners that we have. What we're trying to do now is to bring them out also as a part of our coalition so that we can begin to make a real effort to push this opportunity forward. We're looking at this, and then as we begin to build this, we're going to have to build that momentum within the state of New Mexico. We're building those relationships with our neighboring states right now. So again, there's a lot of coordination work that has to be done. We've been working with the county and the Navajo Nation in order to achieve that. And again, the memorandum of understanding that was signed back in February has been a real instrument in helping us getting that accomplished.
And that was signed between the county and the tribe, and I don't know if the city was on their border or not, but county and tribe.
County and tribe.
Okay.
And really the county, we were looking at all the entities that are here within San Juan County, looking at the municipalities, which would include Farmington,
Sure.
but also the other communities, Forsaid, the college, etc. So we're looking at ourselves collectively as San Juan County. And the nation is also looking at itself, looking at all the different divisions and entities that they have within the nation, and utilizing that as a catalyst for us to come together and work in partnership with one another to achieve this goal.
Right. And so this grant it was a grant that you applied
Yes.
for, correct? And so this would be more of a planning grant. So the studies have all been done, and it appears then, since we're still moving forward, that there does appear to be the feasibility studies or things that seem to think that this project has merit and could work with all the players on the same page, and all that's been figured out?
Well, again,
Or is that what this would do?
this would help build on those studies. When you read those studies, really they're looking at different aspects of it. In some cases, they're making some assumptions.
I see.
They're building that into why this would be a good idea for this region. What this planning grant's looking at is taking that information and really coming down and say, okay, here's where we really think the alignment should be. Here's who we're going to have to work with in order to make sure that we get the necessary compliance and approvals for that alignment. And here's what it's going to take for us to build this particular project.
So it's more detailed.
It's a more detailed planning or feasibility effort in order for us to get to a point to where we can actually say, okay, this is what it's going to take to design this project now. Here's who we need to work with in order not only to the design, but then to begin to look at how do we build this thing and how do we do this effort.
Got you. Because again, if you're saying I want to get this rail line from point A to point B, until I figure out a route, it may depend on how much it's going to cost, right? One route may cost me $100 million more than Route B, and we need to figure that out.
We need to figure that out, how we're going to finance it.
Well, sure.
Most importantly, how do we communicate to all our communities what's going on and what planning are we moving forward with?
Right.
And so all these efforts need to be brought together, and we need to be able to communicate not only to our communities, but our legislative leaders, our government leaders, both with the nation and San Juan County, our neighboring states, Southwest Colorado, Southeast Utah, Northeast Arizona. I mean, there's a lot that has to happen as we move forward through this whole process. And again, everybody needs to be aware that there is that time frame in place. We're still looking at 2031. We're still looking at, we got to have things in place by that time frame, with the idea that worst case scenario, one industry may be shutting down at that point in time. Our coal plants, our coal mines,
right,
may be shutting down at that point. And as all of us are aware, we also have challenges with the oil and gas industry. And in fact, the state legislature is going into special session middle of this month on the 18th to actually look at what that impact has on the state and what they're going to have to do to address those impacts with the oil and gas industry.
That's right. It's impacted the state budget, which is supposed to start and will start on July 1, but needs to be fixed because they have a little bit of an overspending problem at the moment.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, but to the tune of maybe $1 billion, I don't know.
Over $1 billion.
Yeah, but anyway, that's their problem, not ours, this morning anyway. But it's important, I think, that you mentioned our neighboring states, because this would be a regional economic driver if and when this railroad comes into being. If you look at a map of the region and the 4 states and where rail lines are, there's nothing in these regions of all 4 of the states that we're talking about. And so a spur coming into San Juan County, New Mexico, would certainly be able to help customers perhaps in those other places like Southeast Utah, Northeast Arizona, Southwestern Colorado. They could certainly use that instead of having to truck everything up to the I-70 corridor, which is the next closest rail line, correct?
That's
Unless
correct.
you're talking I-25.
Yes.
That's it.
And again, we've been able to build this to where we're gaining the support that we need. Businesses and different entities, including the Southern Utes, have provided letters of support towards this application in Southwest Colorado. Here in New Mexico, our whole New Mexico congressional delegation signed a letter of support for this effort. The state Department of Transportation has come in support of this effort. Arizona, their delegation is coming in support. We've even gotten Senator Romney to write a letter of support for this effort
from Utah, right?
From Utah. Mm-hmm. And so again, we're beginning to build this effort to really start looking at rail on a very focused effort. So that we can really look at achieving this milestone and really looking at what Forrest said is really focused on. How do we begin to diversify our economy, and how do we look at bringing new businesses in, and how do we help retain and expand current businesses that we have in place right now? So again, all of that fits with what we're doing. We've been working really hard, and at times it's been like herding cats because, as I said,
I would think so.
Everybody has their priorities happening, especially with the virus. There are challenges there, but I just want to really send some kudos out to a lot of people who have been working hard with us to get or to keep the attention on this project. And I think we're beginning to see some good headway. And again, the leadership of the county and the county commission, as well as the Navajo Nation, their Department of Economic Development, as well as the Office of the President and Vice President, has been very instrumental in helping us get to this point at this time.
Certainly. Well, and you certainly need the support of the Navajo Nation. Without it, you're not going to go anywhere.
That's correct.
And that's just how it is.
I mean, we're going all the way through their reservation in order to align this spur.
But hopefully they see the economic benefits of this as well, obviously.
Yes.
They wouldn't be signed on to it. So
exactly.
I just want to ask you one more thing, Arvin Trujillo, about this project, and we'll move on to something else. But that is a lot of folks that might say, well, we've been talking about rail in the Four Corners for a decade since they ripped out the last train line that came down from Durango, which was in the 60s. And so why is it now feasible, and why is it feasible for that route when the other route didn't do very well?
Well, again, we're looking at the circumstances that we are in right now. In a way, our success in the past kind of hurt us also, because as people began to talk about rail and looking at that opportunity and what should we do, at that point in time, oil and gas was doing well. We had the power plants. We had a number of things happening. We saw growth happening in this region, in this part of the country, even though we just had truck haulage going in and out. And so again, people were not as focused as they were and saying, well, we've got oil and gas, we got coal, we're okay. We're doing fine, and looking at it from that aspect. But now, given the environment that we're in and what we see now happening with the energy sector, it's become very apparent that we have to begin to look at how do we begin to diversify our economy, and what will it take in order for us to do that successfully. And we've identified two major infrastructure areas. One is rail, which is what we're working on.
Yep.
And another one that we're beginning to pick up on, the broadband piece. We all know how
I want to get to that too today. I
how
definitely want to ask you
challenged
about that.
our efforts in the broadband area are right now, looking at this region or this part of the country.
And I guess I just would point out this route going south is more direct to a mainline east-west route for rail than anything going north would be than the old route was, right? Because the old route went to Durango, then it went east to Alamosa and beyond,
Right.
to like Trinidad probably or somewhere, right, to hook up with the north-south line. So that would take hours and hours longer to get anywhere than going south.
Right. Going south connects us with the I-40 corridor. And from there, we have a direct route going to California. We got a direct route, and then that takes us to Albuquerque. But from Albuquerque, you can go north and south down to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And from there to the southeastern portions of the U.S. Going north, you can hit Denver, and then from there you have access going to the East Coast.
Right.
And so again, it opens up a lot more opportunities as far as cost are concerned. I think there's a real advantage in doing that. And so again, that's where we're taking a number of studies that have been done, looking at what's been presented in there, utilizing that as we begin to incorporate our efforts to really look at developing a plan to bring rail here to San Juan County.
Very exciting. Well, again, we're excited about the project, and thanks for the update. And,
you bet.
We hope it keeps going. I know it's expensive. I know it's going to take a long time to get the pieces together, but this is the start.
This is the start.
And you mentioned broadband. I want to ask you about that because all of us these last few weeks and months have been really reliant on our internet at home or at work. And you've been talking about this even before the pandemic, about how our broadband capabilities needed to be improved and strengthened and made faster. Mm-hmm. And so obviously what's been happening in the last few months has only magnified that deficiency.
It's brought that out, especially in rural America. And we are seeing that right now. We're seeing an uptick with the Navajo Nation on really beginning to push broadband development. We're seeing it happen in southwest Colorado. We're looking at Utah, and they're beginning to pick things up. We're wanting to do the same thing, and we're looking at how do we begin to incorporate the Four Corners region as a whole to begin to take advantage of this. And now the federal government is looking at bringing dollars in to really begin to enhance that capability. We're wanting to prepare ourselves again to begin to look at this aspect and really take advantage of dollars that are currently available right now and that we see coming down in the future. And so again, looking at broadband development, we see the struggles. The Navajo Nation, for instance, they're looking at ways to develop hot spots at chapter areas so the students can have access. We're not clear what's going to happen on the educational front right now.
Right.
We have students that are still struggling just to get internet access for homes and or for classes.
Right. Well, because when the school superintendents were here on the program talking with me about moving all their instruction online, their concern was, What about my students, either on the reservation or off, who don't have access to the internet? Maybe they can afford it, but they literally can't get it where they live.
And that's the thing about it, is this isn't an issue, a tribal issue or a non-tribal issue. It's our whole community as a whole. And so again, looking at it from that aspect, how do we start bringing the different groups together to begin to address this issue? And I think, again, the current circumstances that are in play right now, I think will allow us to begin to look at how we can work together, be it those companies that are internet service providers, governments, different communities, because at a lot of times, because of the competitive nature of the broadband and internet, people have been reluctant in the past to really share information. But what we're beginning to see now are people are willing to open up. They're willing to talk about these things now. There's still some learning that has to happen. There's still relationships that have to be developed in order for people to feel comfortable sharing this kind of information. But again, we're beginning to see things opening up in that aspect. And so we're looking at ways on how we can build, again, coalitions where everybody would benefit from this effort. But at the end of the day, we get the necessary broadband and internet services to many of the communities here that currently do not have that access.
Right.
And so that's what we're looking at right now.
And you have mentioned some fiber optic connections between the cities and the
Yes.
communities here in the Four Corners region, almost in a loop, if you will.
We're in partnership, or I should say San Juan County and the city of Farmington are in partnership with Southwest Colorado, the Council of Governments there, to develop a fiber optic loop that would connect Farmington to Durango, then to Cortez, to Shiprock, through Kirtland, back up to Farmington here. And so again,
So I would think if we're connecting to Durango, Aztec might be part of that loop
yes,
too.
excuse me, I thought
And Bloomfield, does Bloomfield get a say in
well,
this? or
we're looking at, that's where our planning piece has to come into play, because
Got it.
right now we're just looking at that loop, but we don't want to leave Bloomfield out of this.
Right,
And
right.
so again, how do we connect them in? And that would be a part of our overall county plan
I see.
to come together on this. But the engineering study for that loop has been completed now. So we're going to be getting feedback from the contractor and the and Southwest Colorado COG on what they found, how we may begin to proceed down this path and begin building that, and we're going to utilize that, as I had mentioned earlier, discussions on how we can look at connecting the county here, but also the Navajo Nations, looking at how can they connect those chapters on the southern portion of the county to an internet system. And so again, what we're looking at county-wise is how can we bring those two plans together into a manner that is consistent throughout the county, where again, the goal here is to get this type of access to all members of the county here, so that everybody has the availability, has the internet available to their homes,
right.
Or to their chapters, but it's available where people can go and get access and enjoy some of the things that other people do. I mean, shopping online, selling their products and wear online, having educational or even telemedicine opportunities available through the internet. And some of these things are becoming more and more structured now. I mean, in the past, not very many people looked at having meetings, video meetings over the internet.
Now it's all we do all day.
That's all we do all day. People are now beginning to, I mean, I saw my daughter the other day talking to her doctor via her iPhone.
Right, sure.
Getting a checkup and getting her things done via video conferencing. And so again, we see this opportunity happening, and this access beginning to develop. And so how do we get this infrastructure in place so that all of our citizens here within San Juan County have equal access to that capability?
And for folks who are listening this morning, to help them understand how this would maybe impact them if they don't live in any of these cities that you mentioned, let's take Shiprock, for example. If I've got a fiber optic line running through Shiprock, then perhaps it's a little bit easier to connect to that loop then? Or if I'm a cell phone company, I can build a tower and link that to fiber and have better connections through my cell phone customers?
You open up new opportunities if you have a hard wire going through a certain area. You have new opportunities available because from that hard wire, you can go ahead and look at extending that hard wire with other hard wire to connect to other homes and communities. You could then also connect to microwave dishes through the hard wire, that through microwave signaling, you can get access to the internet going out to communities. And so again, there are a number of ways that you can utilize that to get the signal out so that people have access to that. But again, you can't do that until you have that actual connection coming in.
Right. And you mentioned hotspots, and that would be maybe a cell phone technology, and faster connections might be able to help with those.
Well, it would help with those. You would have hotspots, meaning you would have an area that would have access to the internet.
Right.
And as you know, you would have a router system in place where that signal would extend out beyond that building for a few hundred feet, or
sure, exactly,
etc.
And folks could connect there.
Folks could come in and park in the parking lot or whatever and have access to the internet.
Gotcha.
And the idea is, as we get high-speed internet through the hardwire coming in, that opens up opportunities wireless-wise or through microwaves to get to those hot spots, but still have the kind of speed that you would like to have in order to have good access to the internet at that point. And so again, that's what we're looking at. Then we can look at those opportunities in terms of saying, let's utilize a chapter for an instance. A chapter goes in, they pay for that. They can then, for their particular chapter membership, saying we've got a hot spot, there's no payment, you come in, you park, you use it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to pay for that service, now you have IPS services that would have access to that type of linkage, which then can provide that service to your home.
Right.
And so again, you have faster speeds, you have more access, you have the capabilities of using the internet now at home, and hopefully you're able to do that at a cost that is fairly reasonable.
Right.
For your particular area. And again, as we have found, as you get more and more access to different areas, the cost of that service does come down. And so again, we're looking at those strategies on how we can do that. We are, again, moving as fast as we can to get all these pieces in place. As I indicated, the federal government's looking at dollars coming down to help with this type of infrastructure development. And we're in that process of getting these pieces in place so that we're in a position to take advantage of that.
And that has a lot of other parts of it too. If you have better internet speeds and better connectivity and all that, that maybe attracts some other maybe work from home people that could live anywhere and do their job, but they just need higher speed to make that happen, and that could be possible with what we're talking about.
And it adds to the marketability of the area here.
Sure.
If we can increase that, if we can have better transportation, that opens opportunities to bring new industries in.
Right.
And what we're seeing right now is that there are a lot of mid-sized companies who are seriously looking at relocating to smaller areas. And again, we are in a position to take advantage of that. We've got a good workforce. Granted, we're going to have to retrain people, but we're going to have to look at those pieces and how do we make this area much more marketable to take advantage of those opportunities.
Right, exactly. Arvin Trujillo is my guest this morning. He is the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development, and we just have a couple of minutes remaining this morning, but I wanted to ask you a bit about food and growing and farming. That's another economic development area that I know our area could maybe excel in. It did once, it could again. And of course, we had snow in the mountains earlier this week, so we've got no problems with water, I guess, for the foreseeable future. But Growers Market starts on Saturday, I know, in Farmington, but there's a lot of focus on locally produced foods and developing some of those supply chains, right?
Yes, and we've got we're in partnership with San Juan College, the Food Hub, the USDA Extension. the New Mexico State Extension Office.
Right.
We're looking at bringing the different farmers markets in the county here together as one organization. We're looking to call this the San Juan County Growers Market Alliance, looking at the different municipalities and the tribal communities where we do have farmers markets, and bringing those together and really helping the vendors, the farmers, market their products, provide them training, help in ways where we can take advantage of programs like SNAP, WIC with the tribe, etc. How do we utilize that so produce can be purchased, local produce can be purchased, we can help support farmers, and how do we begin to build that effort? So FORSED is working collectively with this newly formed Growers Market Alliance to really begin to develop this whole entity and to enhance its capabilities and to provide support to our local farmers, and more importantly, how do we also provide service that would be most beneficial to the customers of our local produce.
Sure.
And so again, we're expanding our efforts looking at the agricultural area and how do we begin to work collectively with them. And we're in the process right now of finalizing some agreements and getting things in place and getting everything organized. But Ken Hare from Bloomfield, Bonnie Hopkins with the New Mexico Extension Office,
right,
and Aaron Havens with the Food Hub have been real instrumental in working with me in terms of putting this whole effort together and really developing a process by which we can collectively help develop the different farmers markets in all the different areas here in San Juan County.
Very exciting. When we talk about agriculture, we have to talk about NAPI too, right?
Yes.
They could play a role in some of this as well. I mean, they've already done a lot of work, and they're already a huge enterprise up on the bluffs, but could they expand? Could they play a role in some of this expanded effort?
They definitely can be looked at to expand this. Right now, we're focused on just getting ourselves organized here, okay, and get the different farmers groups organized. But looking at NAPI and what they have here, the Ute Mountain Utes also have things that they're working on. County of Montezuma is also working on things in Colorado. La Plata County also has farmers markets, and they're doing things with a food hub. So we're looking collectively on how we can bring this together. Our food hub right now is looking at also opening up a commercial kitchen in downtown Farmington that could be leased out and utilized by some of our different entrepreneurs. So again, agriculture and food, again, is another area that is important to this region, and we're wanting to support this and build on this effort, and we're doing that right now. And I just want to, again, lay a shout out there to Ken and Bonnie and Aaron for their vision in terms of looking at how we can organize this and how we can move forward with this effort. Exactly.
Well, it seems like a lot of folks in our community recognize the need to diversify the economy and to work with groups like yours to see what's available, what's possible, and to move in that direction. We kind of see the need to do that.
We do need to do that. And right now, because of the pandemic, we've been really focused on being more of a role player, helping in programs like the PPP and the emergency injury disaster loan process, working with the Small Business Development Center as well as WES, our local banks, kind of helping people and pointing them in the right direction so they can get the needed consultation. But now, as things are beginning to open up, we're seeing these new opportunities come. And one thing we're going to be revamping is our strategic plan in terms of looking at how we want to be more in the mode of recovery, economic recovery. And so much of our strategic plan still fits with what's happening right now. We're looking at making some changes on our objective side. But again, one thing I want to say is that we would really enjoy having more people involved here in the community, not just Farmington, but we're looking at the full San Juan County community, because when we come together and begin to share ideas and look at new opportunities or recognize different challenges that each other has, we can then better find better ways to address those areas. But again, a lot of smart people here in San Juan County, a lot of smart business people. These small business people are very creative and innovative. And that's what we need to bring to really begin to enhance our efforts here in San Juan County.
Very true. I mean, look, if we have a drive-in theater in the middle of a parking lot, for heaven's sake.
That's
So,
right.
so there you go. Arvin Trujillo, it's great to talk with you. Thanks for coming in this morning. We are out of time, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But we'll catch up with you next month.
You bet.
Okay, very good. That's Arvin Trujillo, my guest here on KSJE. He is the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development. And I'll be back with more in just a moment, everyone. The time right now is coming up on 8:44.
Travel is one of life's great rewards, and there's always something new to see and experience when you travel the world like I do. Hi, I'm Rick Steves. Join me as we get better acquainted with the world each week on Travel with Rick Steves. Together, we'll explore fascinating sights, discover amazing food, and make new friends from near and far. Your radio is the only passport you'll need. Join us for Travel with Rick Steves, Saturday afternoons at 1 on KSJE.